What's good, peeps? Thanks always for passing by the channel. Much appreciated. Hit that subscribe button if you guys are new. All right, let's do this. This might be a late one. Apologies. This week in boxing, episode 5. I think it is 5. Let's go straight to the results. By the way, if you live in London, how fucking hot is it right now? Not complaining, just saying it's hot. I thought summer was over. I mean, I'm happy it's not. I'm just saying. Just saying. Let's go for some of the results. There's quite a lot of boxing this week. We're not going to go through all the results because it will take about an hour to do so. Let's go through some of the results that matter, I think. Tom Schwartz, remember him, Tyson Fury's last opponent. He's back with a first round stoppage over a guy called Andre Hulibek. The guy who fought had a record of 5-8. Now the guy's got a record of 6-8. James Kirkland's also back. He stopped Colby Corte in one round. Obviously, it's first fight in 4 years for James Kirkland. I'm not quite sure what weight this fight was at, because I saw a picture of James Kirkland about a year ago and he was massive. So I'm not quite sure this fight was at. I doubt this fight was at 154 pounds. So I'm going to guess and say it was at 168. But yeah, James Kirkland, we know he's got the power. He's always had the power. He's 36 now. Can he make a run? And I don't mean a run at a title. I mean a run in terms of maybe getting one last crack at someone big. Maybe. He's got a name. We know the name James Kirkland. So we'll see. We'll see. Liam Smith stopped Mario Lozano in Mexico, 7th round stoppage. This fight was actually at middleweight. I'm not quite sure if this is now the future for Liam Smith. I don't know what he's doing, if I'm honest with you. Again, I said this, I think, last week. You left Frank Warren, who got you a fight, the rematch against Liam Williams, which was a good fight, and then Munguia, a world title fight, and now you've taken fights in Mexico and fighting supposedly, I don't know, stop. Hrgovic, the next so-called heavyweight sensation, stopped Heredia in 3 rounds. Let's see what's next for him. Good fighter, Hrgovic. Strong as fuck. Doesn't really move, I don't think. I'd like to see a fight between him and Joe Joyce. It would be like a fight in slow motion, but it'd be a good fight nonetheless. Jonah Carroll came back after he lost to Tevin Farmer. He beat a guy called Eliezer Valenzuela. 98-92 across all 3 judges' scorecards. Wilfredo Mendez beat Vic Salvador and is now the WBO champion at 105 pounds. What weight is 105 pounds? I'm going to guess and say strawweight. Juan Estrada stopped Dwayne Beeman in the 9th round to keep his WBC junior bantamweight title. Eddie Hearn is now talking about a fight between him and Calya Fire. Interesting story about Dwayne Beeman. He turned pro at 33. I'm not quite sure how old he is now. I'm going to guess and say he's about 38, 39. Turned pro at 33. I mean, talk about turning pro late. Bloody hell. Good performance, this one, by Lungu Makabu on the undercard of YARDE versus Kovalev. He beat the unbeaten Russian Alex Papin on points, 115, 113 twice, and 113, 113. It was a lot wider than that. But I'm just happy that he went to Russia. Remember, he's going there fighting the unbeaten kid. So he was going there as the opponent, right? They was expecting him to lose. And for that, Papin to get a decent name on his resume, Makabu showed there's still a lot of life left in him. All right, and the big one yesterday, the one we all know the result for, Anthony Yarde lost to Sergey Kovalev by stoppage in the 11th round. Good performance. I'm actually going to do, I done a video on that yesterday. I'm actually going to do a separate video about Tunde. And if Tunde is the right man for Anthony Yarde tonight, probably drop it tonight as well. I'm not convinced, and that's hard for me to say because I don't like the idea of someone kind of gets you to a level and then you leave them. But I'm not convinced that Tunde is the man to take Anthony Yarde all the way, right? I see a very good prospect in Anthony Yarde, a better prospect than I thought. And sometimes it is okay to say, you know what, I think, you know, we can go our separate ways and try different things. But we'll talk about it a bit more in the video I do. Or say I'll talk about it and you guys will leave your comments. All right, let's talk about some of the fight news. Not much fight news, more just bits and pieces. By the way, someone dissed me for reading my news from this pad. They wanted me to read it from an iPad or something. Get out of here. All right, so news this week. The big one, I think, was that Matchroom had started legal action against Andy Ruiz. Right? Yes, we know the fight's happening now, but that still doesn't take away from the fact that they did start legal action. That was real. That wasn't a joke. It wasn't anything people just made up. That was fact. Matchroom did sue Andy Ruiz. Mike Coppinger, I think, left something on his Twitter page saying that they sued him, or they started legal action just to prevent him from pulling out of the fight or something along those lines. But regardless, they did. Now, we don't know if that was the reason Andrew Ruiz then quickly accepted the fight or said, yeah, happy to go to Saudi Arabia, or was it the extra money he was getting? Again, I done a video on this a couple of days ago saying it's probably a bit of both, right? You don't want to be sued, number one. You don't want a chance of maybe going through courts and litigation. Just earn your money and fight. And finally, he came out and tweeted on his own Twitter page that he will, what did he say? He will retire Anthony Joshua in Saudi Arabia. So he's now fully in, which is a good thing, right? That means that fight does go down. What is it, December 7th or December the 14th? I keep getting the dates mixed up. But that's good nonetheless. I'm just happy that he's now fully on board. Because it could have got silly, right? It could have got to a case where it was legal action and then we miss out on what is a good heavyweight fight. That fight is bloody intriguing now. I did say it was as intriguing, if not on the same level, maybe even a bit more than YARDE Kovalev. No, I think YARDE Kovalev was probably a bit more. But this is definitely the second most biggest intriguing fight of 2019. And I think the biggest fight of 2019 as well. I think the pay-per-view numbers for this fight are going to go for the roof. I think AJ's biggest pay-per-view numbers so far was against Vladimir Klitschko, and that was something like 1.5 million. This fight, I'm convinced, will go well over 2 million. Don't know if it'll touch 3. I don't know if that's possible, but I'm thinking 2.2 to 2.5 million. It's going to be massive, right? It's going to be massive. Other news concerning Matchroom, obviously, Gennady Golovkin has signed a co-promotion deal with Matchroom. It looks like this guy's cleaning house, right? I mean, what was it, 3 months ago, got rid of Abel Sanchez. There was talk, I think, this week or last week about him changing his management team. And now, obviously, he signed a co-promotional contract with Matchroom. I don't know. I read somewhere that doesn't mean it's the end of that sort of deal he's got with Tom Loffer, but that Tom Loffer is now in the background and now Eddie Hearn will come to the forefront. I don't actually know why he even needs Matchroom. I'm a bit confused by it all, if I'm honest with you. I mean, GGG has signed a deal with DAZN. I don't know why it can't just be GGG Promotions and just do your own thing. I'm not quite sure what Matchroom do or help him. I mean, I don't know what they do, if I'm honest with you. I think all of America knows Gennady Golovkin, all of the boxing world anyway, so I'm not quite sure what a deal with Matchroom does for him, but nonetheless, that's happened. GGG Derevchenko got announced this week as well. That's going to be a great fight, I think, for the IBF middleweight title. I think it's good that GGG is now focused on someone other than Canelo, right? That's all his chase has been about, Canelo. I've always said win a belt, right, and then go and chase him. I'm all for the trilogy if GGG can bring something else to the table. And I think if he can beat Derevchenko, then why not, right? I still would like to see him fight Demetrius Andrade, but I have no problem with him fighting Canelo if he gets past Derevchenko. And it's a big if. Derevchenko's a good fighter. I think GGG will still show that there's a lot left and probably get rid of Derevchenko. I think he can, but it's a good fight. I like GGG at the press conference. He was saying that, I think he almost said something like, this fight scares me a little bit. He's a very good fighter, blah, blah, blah. That tells me that GGG is going to fuck him up. Fuck him up. But that fight is scheduled to go down in October, which is a good thing. Matchroom also in the news, according to Robert Garcia. Is it Robert or Roberto? Let's say Robert for now. Matchroom have sent a huge offer to Mikey Garcia. Mikey Garcia is a free agent right now. It makes sense if Mikey is going to go back down to 140, right? If he goes back down to 140, Matchroom have got links with a lot of 140-pound fighters. If it's at 147, if he stays at 147, then it makes no sense whatsoever. Because there are no big 147 fighters. I can't think of any on the DAZN platform. Any ones of note anyway, apart from Kell Brook with Matchroom. There's no one. So if he stays at 147, then he's just going to have, I guess, meaningless fights. Because none of those PBC boys are going to come over to DAZN. So meaningless fights just for the big checks, which isn't a bad thing, I guess, for boxers nowadays. But if he goes down to 140, then yeah, there's good fights all over the place, right? So be interesting to see what happens. More news with Matchroom, or Eddie Hearn really, is this war of words with Leonard Ellaby. Eddie Hearn this week called him a bit of a hater because I think Leonard Ellaby in recent times has called DAZN the dead zone. And I was kind of with Eddie Hearn. I'm still am with Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn's obviously trying to make these fights between Gervonta Davis and Tevin Farmer. And every time he brings up a cross kind of promotional thing, Leonard Ellaby does shut it down. And And it almost looks like, from the outside looking in, that Eddie Hearn wants to see these big fights happen, regardless of what platform. And Leonard Ellaby's like, ain't happening, which is a bit of a shame. Leonard Ellaby kind of left, I think, a statement yesterday saying that the whole of American boxing is laughing at Eddie Hearn. He said something along the lines of, you brought Anthony Joshua over as the best heavyweight in the world, supposedly, and you put him in a fight that you shouldn't have against Andy Ruiz, and now he's gone from being number 1 to being number 4. They're laughing at you because of the Ramirez Hooker thing. Like, Ramirez was always going to win, but yet you put up Ramirez versus Morris Hooker, and also he mentioned about Loma versus Luke Campbell. So it seems as though he's laughing at Eddie Hearn for making fights the fans want, regardless of the outcome, right? He's almost laughing at Eddie Hearn, saying, you're putting your fighters up against other people's fighters and losing. As fans, we like that. We don't care about that. So Leonard Ellaby, it's almost like his mindset is like, he wouldn't take that risk. He's not putting his fighter up against fighter B. If there's a risk of losing, why would he do that? That's kind of how it's been with Mayweather and Leonard Ellaby for years, and crap. So I'm definitely with Eddie Hearn on this one. A fight that was announced a couple of days ago. Strange fight between two has-beens, no disrespect. Peter Quillen versus Alfredo Angulo. It's been finalized for September the 21st. Peter Quillen was actually supposed to fight Caleb Truax, the guy that beat James DeGale. James DeGale then went on to avenge it. But Caleb Truax pulled out because of an eye injury. Both guys are way past their best, if I'm honest with you. Quillen's 36, Angulo's 37. I mean, you know, it might actually be a good fight because they're both past their best at the same time, right? So sometimes that kind of works out well. Another fight that was announced this week, Ted Cheeseman will take on Scott Fitzgerald. That's been added to the Lewis Ritson versus Robbie Davis Jr. card. Going on their last fights, Fitzgerald will beat Cheeseman. Going on their last fights. But you never know, it should be a decent fight. That card's it's a decent Saturday night card now. That's what we've been wanting for all this year. That's a decent non-pay-per-view Saturday night card. Let's see who else he can add to it. Sugar Ray Leonard has got a bit of stick, and I'm with the stick he's getting, saying that he supports and would like to see Manny Pacquiao versus Floyd Mayweather 2, saying that it should happen. Since Manny Pacquiao beat Keith Thurman, there has been a lot of talk about that's the fight he wants. Obviously, it's the fight he probably makes anywhere between, 50 to 100 million. Why would you not want that fight? It's an easier fight. It's like a sparring session with Mayweather at this time, rather than, Porter, Spence, anyone really, Mikey, Danny. Mayweather's an easier fight. Not easier in the sense that he can win, which he probably can at this stage, but easier in the sense that you're not going to get hurt, right? It's not going to be a painful night's work. There was this thing that Mayweather put out, I think Fight Hut put it out, about Mayweather saying he's coming to Saudi Arabia to discuss. That was all kind of a hoax, because that was, 4 or 5 years ago or something like that. So there is no talk about Mayweather versus Pacquiao happening in Saudi Arabia. Although Mayweather does have this way of almost gauging people's reactions. And I think it's a fight that he wants, just because, again, it's an extra $100 to $150 million in the bank for Floyd Mayweather. Why would you not want that? The only thing is his ego, because at this stage, you would have to favor Pac-Man, I think, at this stage. So I don't know if Mayweather's willing to risk his O on that. Should do, 150 million, fucking hell. WBC have got another belt. It's called the Mayan belt. It's actually a belt they've had for the last couple of years. It's a belt they normally give out to the fighter that fights in September and May. In the last couple of years, that has been Canelo. Obviously, Canelo's not fighting this September, so they've actually put a poll out saying what fight should receive this Mayan belt. The options are Tyson Fury versus Wallin, Haney versus Abdulayev, Munguia versus Alotti, and DAZN versus Jimenez. I say you just scrap the fucking belt. It's facts, right? Just scrap the belt. Talking of belts, Anthony Joshua's come out recently and said he regrets giving these belts to Ruiz. Remember, at their first, I think it was, press conference, their little stare down, Ruiz asked to hold the belts, and Anthony Joshua, for some odd reason, some reason, decided to give Ruiz the belts. That didn't go down too well because, 3-4 days later, Ruiz beat him for all those belts. And Joshua says he regrets it, but he says the belts don't make him, or something along those lines. He's got quite philosophical recently. I actually tweeted that as well and said that was such a mistake. You just don't do that, right? Deontay Wilder done something very similar as well with Tyson Fury. I don't know if you remember Tyson Fury's fight with Pianeta. Deontay Wilder was ringside. And for some reason, he gave Tyson Fury his belt. And Tyson Fury kind of put it up in the air and the crowd went mad. And I thought like, why are you doing that? Stop it. Stop it, people. All right, let's end on this one. Not a lot of news this week, but again, interesting news. The WBO have rejected Dillian Whyte's appeal to allow Usyk to be their mandatory challenger. Usyk right now is the WBO's #1 mandatory challenger, and he will fight the winner of Andrew Ruiz versus Anthony Joshua. Dillian Whyte was #1, but the WBO have this ruling that the cruiserweight champion coming up will go to that #1 slot. Usyk obviously relinquished all his belts, so he went automatically to the #1 spot. Dillian Whyte wasn't happy, so him and his legal team put in an appeal. That appeal was rejected last week, so it's not good times for Dillian Whyte. In that appeal letter, they cited things like the incident right now that's going on with Oscar Rivas and him being suspended by the WBC. They also cited the fact that he actually fought recently for the WBC. There's a lot of information there. A lot of information seems to be bollocks, if I'm honest with you. But go and read it. It is on Boxing Scene's website. So again, not great news for Dillian Whyte. Hasn't been a good last month or so. We still don't know what's going on with this fucking B sample. Or do we? I think we do. But yeah, that's it. That's this week in boxing. Peace.